Good morning, you're watching All You Need to Know on Bloomberg Quint. I'm Darshan Mehta. First, let's take a look at what happened as far as the global markets were concerned. Not the best of close as far as the US markets were concerned. All of them were down close to 1% in trade. The big hit coming in as far as the Nasdaq was concerned. Europe also majorly was in the red. Asia's started off not on the best of starts. The Nikkei is trading up slightly in trade, but nevertheless, most of the Asian markets are not indicating any kind of fireworks. Now, the SGX Nifty, which will give an indication of how we will open, is down by 30 points. At one point of time, it was trading down by over 50 points. So it has recovered from the lows of the day, but nevertheless, it seems that the Nifty futures probably will open below the 10,600 mark. Now, how did our markets pan out in trade? Firstly, the ADRs, Dr. Reddy's was the one that took a hit of 1.5%, but the others ADRs absolutely flat in trade. Vedanta managed to move up 0.8%, but the other ADRs not seeing that much of a traction. The Nifty was slightly weak on Friday. It ended down by almost 13 points, but there was traction on the mid cap and the small cap end of the market, both of them moving in higher by 1% each. Now, the Nifty Bank also managed to move up in trade. It was up 33 points, but the PSU banking index was down almost 17 points. Not enough traction happening there. Now, if you're looking at what sectors managed to do well, the pharma index did well. Sun Pharma, DVs, all these counters managed to do well. What didn't do well was the metal index, which was down almost 0.8%. Now, if you're looking at the fund flows, FIs were net buyers to the tune of 614 crores. DI sold in almost 337 crores in the cash market. Overall, if you're looking at the Nifty setup, what moved the Nifty? The three companies with larger market caps, with the top three companies with market cap, Reliance, TCS and HDFC Bank, they dragged down the Nifty. Some bit of contribution was seen on Yes Bank, Maruti Suzuki, and the consumer names Asian Paints and HUL. As far as the F&O market was concerned, what we're seeing is the fact that there was a little bit of long unwinding that was seen on the Nifty, but the Nifty Bank saw fresh buying that came in. Open interest build up was 8%, that too on the long side. If you're looking at where positions are taken, we are currently at the 10,600 mark in trade. Call writers are active from levels of 10,500 to higher level, and put writers from 10,600 to lower level. So it seems that 10,500 to 10,700 seems to be the broad range that the market is looking at. Even on Friday, since the Nifty was rather weak in trade, call writers became much more aggressive, and put writers were shedding positions at higher levels. Now, there are no stocks in the F&O band, not too much even movement coming in on the Nifty Bank or the Nifty PCR. So the PCR pretty much stayed stable. Counters that you saw open interest build up. So Indian Bank saw poor set of numbers. Open interest build up of 45% on the short side. PC Jewelers, OBC and SRF saw fresh buying that came in, while Balkrishna Industries saw fresh shorts on open interest build up of 16%. In terms of companies which saw either short covering or long unwinding, Infibeam was up 16%. Look at the short covering that came in. Mindtree saw short covering that came into itself. Again, Just Dial and Dabur India also saw short covering on open interest decline. Long unwinding was seen on DCB Bank. So these are all the domestic cues that you need to watch out for. Let's go across to Paul Allen for all the top international headlines.
Sterling opened weaker in early Asia trading as Prime Minister Theresa May fights to keep her Brexit plan alive. Pro-EU Conservatives say it's the worst of all worlds, while Eurosceptics are demanding a clean break. Meanwhile, Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker says he thinks a deal will be struck soon because a disorganised split would make things worse for both sides. President Macron called for greater international cooperation as the world marked 100 years since the end of World War I. He used the occasion to criticise the protectionist policies embraced by America under President Trump, saying patriotism is the opposite of nationalism, and nationalism is a betrayal of patriotism. Chancellor Merkel later warned the world is regressing on human rights. Hot, dry winds continue to drive the worst wildfires in California's history, with Governor Jerry Brown calling on President Trump to release new federal aid. At least 25 people are known to have died, and 250,000 have had to leave their homes and seek safety. Brown's call comes a day after the president threatened to withhold funds because of what he called gross mismanagement of forests. Goldman Sachs' former top banker in Asia says a culture of secrecy at the company led him to conceal wrongdoing from compliance staff. Tim Lessner's guilty plea in the 1MDB investigation also says others at the bank helped him conceal bribes used to retain business in Malaysia. Goldman says that Lessner withheld information it believed the 1MDB debt sales it underwrote were for development projects. Global news 24 hours a day on air and at TikTok on Twitter, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Paul Allen. This is Bloomberg.
No one country can do it alone, and no one country should do it alone. And I think not only our colleagues in OPEC, but even the non-OPEC countries recognize that there needs to be a collective, collaborative work amongst the majority of producers.
This 500k barrels a day that they're going to cut from supply from December, that really reverses the increases we've seen in the 6 months. So we're really just back to level here. So whether that has a short-term impact on the price, I suspect it might be supportive. I don't think it's going to be enough to actually reverse the trend. And as the energy minister, you just heard him there mentioned, it's down to everyone. It's not just the Saudis who can affect this market. So it's going to be interesting going forward to see what the likes of the Russians do. Iraq has also been boosting its production, and their economy very much relies on these revenues to get back on its feet. So it's unlikely that they'll be too keen to cut either. So it's going to be hard for the Saudis to get the other players on board for this. And of course, you've still got those factors that have been driving the price down in the first place. Very strong US shale production, and also the fact that these sanctions that President Trump slapped on Iran, they seem to be quite leaky. They've already mentioned that quite a few countries will be exempt. So that's been forcing prices down, and those factors are still in play.
WTI futures rose as much as 1.3% to snap its 10 days losing streak after OPEC and its allies started laying the groundwork for production cuts in 2019, reversing an almost year-long expansion plan, with Saudi Arabia reasserting its role as a swing producer by announcing fewer shipments from next month following its meeting over the weekend at Abu Dhabi. Most base metal names, they ended lower, with sharp cuts seen in aluminum, lead, nickel and tin. Copper fell as much as 4% in the last week, posting its worst weekly loss in over 3 months on the back of a stronger dollar and concerns over the outlook for demand from China. Gold prices, they also continue to trade with the pressure on the downside, falling for a 7th consecutive day, its worst losing streak in 17 months, as a strong inflation data boosted Fed's case for increasing interest rates in its December meet.
Well, a bunch of news that we're tracking this morning. I'm going to start off with fertilizer chemicals and Travanco, where the results of the company are disappointing along with the auditor's note. If you look at the net loss, that's almost widened for the company to 52 crore as compared to what we had seen earlier. And also, if you look at the EBITDA performance, that for the company is down by as much as 85%. Auditor in its note has flagged a concern on the material uncertainty of the company, which implies that this casts a significant doubt on the company's ability to continue on ongoing basis. Second on the list is Tata Motors, where the JLR sales number, that number is almost down by 4.6% year-on-year basis to a number of around 44,000, more than 44,000 units out there. And Jet Airways, the board is going to be meeting today apparently to consider multiple fundraising options. That's according to Business Standard. And also we're looking at a relatively small cap company which has a market capitalization of less than 300 crore, Orient Press, which has received the Maharashtra Pollution Board control approval to restart its Tarapur plant. And also in terms of bulk deals, we're tracking 2 companies there, Texmaco Infra, where the promoter has bought an 1.35% stake in the company at the market price that we saw on Friday. And also the second one that we're tracking is Setco Automotive, where the promoters actually sold in more than 1% stake at the market price that we saw on around that Friday level. Wockhardt, where the company has reported good set of numbers. We're tracking in 5 earnings this morning, where the EBITDA is up as much as 6.5 times to a number of 52 crore as compared to 8 crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter. However, the company has reported a net loss of 23 crore as compared to 3 crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter, mainly on account of higher other income that we saw in the corresponding quarter. And also if you look at SOBA, now again that's inline set of numbers that the company has reported. If you look at the top line, it's 1.9% flattish growth. The EBITDA, however, the company has grown at 12.3%. And if you look at the margins of the company, they've almost come up at 21% as compared to 19.3%, despite the lower share or the higher revenue share coming in from the lower margin construction business. VST Tillers, not a good set of numbers reported by the company. Look at the top line growth. It's 18% down. EBITDA is almost 88% down. And the margins of the company have also contracted, which has led to a downtick in the profitability of the company, as much as 51% down there to a number of 9.2 crore as compared to 19 crore. EID Perry, where the operational performance of the company is pretty much flattish, and if you look at the bottom line number, we're looking at a 50% downtick there. The last number that is there on our list, Shankara Building Products, where the revenue is seen up by 12.6%, but if you look at the net profitability of the company, that's almost declined by 47%. That's mainly on account of the EBITDA performance reported by the company, which is down as much as 24.3% to a number of 31 crore as compared to 41 crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter.
Well, against expectations for Titan Company, the quarter was mixed, considering we did see revenues rise 26% and this number was ahead of street expectations. However, we also saw contraction in margins, and consequently we saw profits rise only 3% year on year, and both the operational margin number as well as the profit number was below expectation. Now, among the many reasons, firstly, let me start off by talking about the revenues. There was strong growth for jewelry sales as well as watches. Both of them have lifted and boosted revenues for Titan Company. But the various reasons behind the contraction in margins is, first, gross margins came off because of a higher share of plain jewelry as against the premium one. Secondly, the company has also taken certain inventory losses worth 18 crores for this quarter, which will be reversed in the next quarter. And thirdly, the company has also provided for an exposure to IL&FS Group worth around 29 crores, and that is something that is weighing down on the margins. However, coming down to your watches segment, that has seen a robust 17% growth, and well, this is likely on the back of what we've seen with respect to launches in the previous few quarters. Overall, we have seen the revenues come ahead of expectations, but when it comes to your margins, they have come off to a certain extent, but that's largely on account of one-offs.
Well, in terms of the Nifty 50 earnings that we're tracking this morning, Coal India, which is expected to report in numbers, we're looking at a steady quarter for the company, at least on year-on-year basis. If you look at the top line growth, we're expecting a 20% uptick in that number to around 21,825 crore. And in terms of EBITDA, we're looking at a number of 4,500 crore, which compares to a number of 1,289 crore that we've seen in the corresponding quarter. In terms of the profitability, the company is expected to post profit of more than 3,000 crore as compared to 369 crore that we've seen in the base quarter. What goes behind the making of these good numbers will be the higher EBITDA, which comes in mainly on account of lower employee expenses, given that the company has already made a chunk of its provisioning for lower wages, and also higher volumes. Dispatches are up as much as 6% for this company on account of good demand coming in from both power as well as non-power sector. Higher FSA realization due to the price hike undertaken by the company is expected to result into good show by the company. In terms of FSA volumes, that's expected to rise as much as 10%, and in terms of e-auction volume, that's seen lower by as much as 14% year-on-year basis. Key factors that we like to keep an eye out will be the e-auction volume as well as the realization, along with the FSA realization, because that's the number that we'll really keep an eye out, given that much of the performance will be driven by that number, and also the outlook on coal prices and hikes thereafter.
Okay, Eicher Motors will also report numbers today. The important number to watch is 12%, because we're seeing a growth of 12% on the top line, bottom line as well as EBITDA. So margins will be stable at 31.5%. Now, mainly in terms of the volume growth, both for Royal Enfield as well as the commercial vehicle business, volume growth is seen. Even realizations are expected to improve this time around. They had a launch as far as the California market is concerned and the US markets are concerned, and there will be expenses related to that will have an impact on the EBITDA of the company. The other factor was higher salaries this time around, other expenditures that, especially in the US launch, that is something that will weigh in on the margins of the company. As far as profits are concerned, the other factor was the launch of disc brakes compared to drum brakes is something that will increase expenses for some of the bike. Again, the hit will there come in on the EBITDA. And finally, taxes are expected to be lower this time around, which will probably aid the bottom line of the company.
On the big brokerage calls for the day, first we have is Nomura on Tata Motors. Now the brokerage has maintained its buy rating on the stock with a target price of 260. Now according to the brokerage, the October global retail sales of JLR remained weak as China sales continued to fall amid tariff changes and trade tensions with US. Now the company has indicated a turnaround plan with dealers to balance production with demand on China, but the brokerage is expecting the JLR to have a tough third quarter of financial year 2019 due to these inventory changes. Lastly, positive free cash flow, success of new models which would lead to improved volumes and cost controls which would lead to margin expansions would be the potential triggers for Tata Motors going forward, says the brokerage. Second we have is Motilal Oswal on India Cement. Now the brokerage has maintained its neutral rating on the stock but has cut down the target price on India Cements to 93 rupees from 96. Now according to the brokerage's second quarter revenue of the company were in line with estimates, but the net profit missed estimates due to foreign exchange losses. Now the revenue growth was healthy due to a 14% uptick in volumes which was led by healthy demand seen in the south market. Now the company has also announced a capital expenditure plan of nearly 1,000 crore rupees where it is looking to set up a 2.3 metric tons of cement capacity in Madhya Pradesh. Now on the back of this announced capacity expansion, the brokerage has cut the estimates to factor in a higher depreciation and interest cost for the company.
All right, well, there's lots of events that you have to look forward to over the course of the week, and the release of several important pieces of data with regard to India's economy. But before we get all of that to you, you can look on the website bloombergquint.com and you'll find several stories that are worth reading even now. First up, the Reserve Bank of India's board meeting on the 19th of November could well turn out to be a stormy affair. Some members are likely to raise issues concerning the central bank's capital framework, management of surplus and liquidity measures for small businesses. And Congress President Rahul Gandhi on Saturday took a swipe at the Narendra Modi government, saying that many people knew of the cost of the Rafale fighter aircraft deal, but the government considered it a national secret that could not be revealed to the Supreme Court. And just a short while back, we learnt of the demise of Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister Anant Kumar. He died earlier this morning. The 59-year-old who was suffering from cancer has been a key BJP functionary in Karnataka and also a 6-time member of Parliament. That's all we have for you in this edition of All You Need to Know. Up next is Indian Open, so do stay tuned. This is Bloomberg Quint.